now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Davenport Auto Park, the ride of your life. And also sponsored by Flores Glass, serving the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Good evening, friends, and welcome to another episode of Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcock. It's my extreme pleasure tonight to welcome Adrienne Copland to the show. Well, Adrienne, glad to have you back.
Thanks.
We were talking before the show. It's been, I guess, 4, 5, 6 years maybe since you were last here.
It has been quite a while.
And that's my fault. It's entirely too long.
It's okay.
We're not going to let that happen again. We're going to get you back sooner. Adrienne is with the Preservation Rocky Mount, and there's a lot going on with that organization now. And, you know, for those that watch the show regularly, you know we talk all the time about preserving history, preserving buildings and structures. And so when I heard about some of the projects that the preservation societies are going on, and I'm saying it's not really referred to as a society.
It's not really a society.
It's just Preservation Rocky Mount.
Preservation Rocky Mount, we are a 501c3 nonprofit.
There you go. I was going to get to that. I'm glad you reminded me. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that, talk about the preservation projects and what's going on. We'll talk about the types of things that you guys do. I'm going to show you some pictures. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that have already been done, some of the things that are in the works. I want to get a big plug. There's a massive fundraising need for a new building, new to you guys anyway. It's an old building. And we'll talk about that too, show you some pictures and so forth. But if you'd like to donate to a great cause, the Preservation Rocky Mount does a wonderful job in Rocky Mount of not only preserving old buildings and old houses, but what's referred to as architectural salvage.
That's right.
You do not only try to keep buildings from being torn down, if you find out they are going to be torn down, you try to get in there before the demolition takes place and salvage windows and doors and tubs and what all else.
That's right. Anything that we can save that's part of the house. We have a lot of flooring. So we get light fixtures, like you said, bathtubs, kitchen sinks, cabinets, anything that we can save that someone might want to put into their new house, give it a new life, save that piece of Rocky Mount history.
And also keep it out of the landfill.
Keep it out of the landfill, and we save that city dollars. Every dollar, every pound that goes into that landfill, they have to spend money on.
Absolutely. So it's a great cause, and they've got a fundraising effort going on now. The building that they've got, it's an older building. It's an old Fenner's Tobacco Warehouse building over on Vine Street. Actually, it takes up a whole block.
It's an entire city block.
Yeah,
a small one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's small, but it's a whole block.
It encompasses Vine Street, Gold Street, Harris Street, and Carter Street. And we've got a picture we'll show you here shortly. But the building needs a roof.
It needs a new roof.
It needs a new roof. And so estimates vary, but let's just suffice it to say it's a lot of money.
It's a lot.
So we're asking the viewers tonight to please dig deep. We'd love to get you. And Adrienne, tell the viewers how they can make a donation if they want to make a monetary donation, number one.
Well, if you want to, you can go to preservationrockymount.org and you can click donate today. There should be little buttons everywhere, and it'll take you right to a little pop-up, and you can pay with a credit card right there. It's very easy. Or what you can do is you can mail us a check if you want to. You can make it to Preservation Rocky Mount, and our address is 3661 Sunset Avenue. It's number 108, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, 27804.
There you go. So we're going to talk about this all throughout the show. So get off your wallets and write the checkbook, get the checkbook out, write some checks. This is a great cause, really, though. There's so much. We were talking before the show about the buildings that have been destroyed and allowed to be destroyed, and it's just a shame that so much of Rocky Mount's history that I know about as a child growing up here, that someone who is new to the area. I think you said you've been here about 7 years.
About 7 years.
So there's a whole lot that I remember as a child that people like Adrienne, who came here from another state or another part of the state even, don't know about. And so we're trying to preserve what's here if we can, and if we can't preserve it, we want to make sure that we at least salvage what can be salvaged from these properties.
That's right.
Okay. One of the things that we talked about a little bit before the show too was the projects that you guys have got ongoing. And by the way, anytime you got a question for Adrienne, number 407-1111, give us a call. She'll be glad to answer your questions. about what the Preservation of Rocky Mount does and how they do it. Let's talk a little bit about how this organization got started. I know it's been around for a while. I think in the 1990s. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got incorporated in 1997, but it was around a couple years before then. And what it was is a group of Rocky Mount citizens who were seeing a lot of buildings being destroyed and torn down, and they said, no, we have to stop this. Let's do what we can. And so they came together, formed a nonprofit, and what they really started with was, let's get these neighborhoods some visibility here. Let's form neighborhood associations and then try to get them protected. And what they really ended up doing is inspiring the city to form a historic preservation commission, to form local historic districts that can be preserved and get these neighborhoods on the National Register of Historic Places. That's really where it all started.
And I spent a lot of time digging through some of these historical designations for Rocky Mount Mills, for example, in that area around the Mill Hill, in the Edgemont part of Rocky Mount. There's a lot of effort put into recognizing that these parts of town do have significant historical value.
They really do.
And so it's important. This work is important because if we don't make an effort to save it, unfortunately, it'll all go the way of the wrecking ball.
It will. It'll end up at the landfill, and what are you left with? You're just unrecognizable pavement. That's really what you're left with.
And there's plenty of that around already.
There really
we don't
is,
need any more. Okay, so got started back in the 1990s. I think you said 1997.
1997.
Thereabouts. I know currently, even though you guys got a new building, currently you're down on Falls Road.
Yes, currently 910 Falls Road is where we're at right now, and that's where we're having to move locations.
Now, is that where the original organization got started, in that same location?
No, the organization was really just in people's living rooms, going back and forth and meeting and how they can get some work done. But the store came around in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And so it was another group of people who had saved the building, had worked to keep it, and they let us move in there. And then we ended up purchasing it from this group who owned that, and we turned it into our store. And eventually, years later, we had sold it to Rocky Mount Mills Village.
When I was a child, there was a laundromat in that building. And my grandfather, who retired from Rocky Mount Mills in around 1967, went to work part-time in the laundromat. And so, yeah. In fact, part of his job was to clean out behind the washing machines themselves.
Oh.
He would, wash clothes, things fall out of their
Dusty.
pocket.
Oh,
yeah. And
Spare
so,
change.
spare change. He had I don't know, some kind of like a feed sack, I guess it was, that he had been collecting nickels, dimes, and quarters. And when he passed away, this thing was about this big around. He had never spent any of the money because he was scared somebody would want it back.
Oh.
So the nickels, dimes, quarters, probably a couple $100 of change. All of it he had gotten from behind these machines.
Wow.
Nobody ever asked him about it, and he wasn't going to steal it. It was just money he found behind the washing machine. But yeah, there was a laundromat there in that building.
That's pretty neat. When we moved in, there was a tile store that had been there.
Right.
And so for many years, and I guess when they closed, they left all the tiles. And so we had a ton of tiles that a lot of people used and paved.
Ceramic tiles.
Ceramic tiles.
Gotcha.
They're like back patios, kitchens. I mean, even that is a type of architectural salvage. So it really worked out.
Yeah. Well, and I've been in there a couple times, and it's neat walking through there to me because there's, like you said, old doors and windows and bathtubs and door casings, door entries, doors, and so forth.
Door surrounds with the transoms, the side lights. Yeah.
I just had a thought too. I went to a little training session that you gave, in fact, about how to repair windows.
Oh, yeah.
I was blown away because you literally took a window all apart, took all the pieces out of the window.
That was fun.
Yeah, and I thought she'll never get this thing right together, but you did.
Oh,
you got
no,
it all back together.
It does. Well, they're made to be taken apart and made to be put back together. Yeah.
It was just neat to me to watch you take that thing apart and put it back together, and then it worked when you got through.
Now I'm into building them myself. I can build one from scratch.
No kidding.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow. So, there's just that's one aspect that people don't think about. that you can take these old windows and you can repair them, rebuild them.
Yeah.
And you can add that aspect to a newer home too.
You can. And I've actually done that in some of the houses that I'm restoring where a window had been taken out and replaced, and it's time to replace that vinyl replacement window. And I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put in a historic wood window what really should have been there.
Period.
Yeah. Period, correct.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
down to the details, the proportions, the glass, everything.
Well, you know, there's so much of that stuff that does end up in the landfill, and it can be reused again, and it makes sense to do that.
It can be. That's the old ways of working these houses, is that they were designed to be maintained and repaired. They were not designed to throw things away. I mean, you had lots of people in the 20s. You have people going through the Depression in the 30s. Like, you know, they had to save everything.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how it was. But we have a different throwaway culture now, where we think
Unfortunately.
it's new is better, and it isn't.
I
This
agree.
old, because you can't get this old character and these old superior materials.
Oh, and you won't see houses built today the way they were built back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. You know, the 8x8 beams and 6x8. So
or
forth.
by 12,
Yes.
16. They're almost tree
Huge.
timbers
Right.
that these things are built with. They're pegged together.
Right.
They're 2x4s, real 2x4s.
Right.
Will actually measure 2 inches by 4 inches.
Now, speaking of lumber, do you guys salvage lumber too?
We do. It really depends on how much help we have for the salvage. You know, if we have a lot of help, we can get everything until we run out of daylight. We can
Right.
get as much as we can. If not, we're going to get the easy stuff to grab, like mantles, sinks, tubs, windows.
So that's another thing. While you're thinking about how you can participate and be a part of and contribute to this effort, volunteers are always welcome, always needed.
Always needed. And it isn't just salvage. Yes, if you want to come and tear down, do demo day with us, that's great. Come on. But we need people to help us check emails and run some spreadsheets for us. So if you want to help, we have a place for you.
Great. I tell you what let's do. Let's look at a picture. Before the show, I was telling Adrienne, one of the projects that you guys did several years ago would involve a couple of storefronts downtown Rocky Mount. And we'll show some before and after pictures of those. But when I was doing some research for tonight's show, I ran across a picture from 1911
Wow.
in downtown Rocky Mount. And this building, you'll recognize it if you've gone downtown Rocky Mount recently. Lee, put up number one, if you will. I don't know, one for our viewers. I don't know what the address is.
Oh, there it is.
There it
Oh,
is.
there it is.
Yep, and it's you notice it's two spaces side by side, but this is obviously you're on South Main Street, looking north, and there you see the train track is at grade level, at street level there. Then there's no, I mean, no raising or lowering of the traffic. That's what I'm trying to say. It's at ground level all the way across there. But so, and best I can tell, that looks like on the left-hand side there, behind the train on the left-hand side, I should say, would be Planters Bank. And so you noticed on this side of the building to the left, it's a vacant space there in this 1911 photograph. So, but that, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's exactly the building.
That is the building. It is.
Yeah.
And so it was 152, 154 Southwest Main Street. And honestly, I'm not sure if it's the one on the left or the one on the right.
Right.
But because there was only one left by the time we got to it. But when we got to it, it was, you see that, it looks like a half moon or a half circle window. Those are called demi-lune windows. And it was completely gone. And the entire facade was boarded up. And so what we were able to do, and in addition to putting a new roof on it and stabilizing the building, is recreating that demi-lune window to put the facade back originally how it was.
And how do you pronounce that again?
Demi-lune.
Demi-lune?
Demi-lune. It means half moon.
Demi-lune. I never
Demi-lune.
knew that. Okay, so I went to digging. You mentioned 152, 154 were the addresses of the two. It was two spaces you guys were
It
working
was
on.
2 spaces, yeah.
And so I went looking to find out when whatever was there. Like I said, this picture is 1911, but I couldn't identify what businesses were there at that time frame. But I went to doing some looking, and I went back to my old faithful Rocky Mountain City directories. I went to the newspapers.com website, and in 1934, Rocky Mountain City directory, I found a listing for 154 Southwest Main Street. Lead number 2, if you would. And this is actually, you see highlighted yellow there, Mr. Cornell Kenny had a store called Kenny's Shoes. And that became a national chain. And it actually started right here in Rocky Mount.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And you see there, 154 Main Street Southwest, where it was listed back then, where Mr. Cornell Kenny and Mr. Preston, I'm guessing was his son. But you see their residence was 900 South Franklin Street. And so that was almost within walking distance of the location on Main Street. And that was pretty typical of business owners back in the time. In those days, they would, live somewhere close to where they had their business at. So, but that was 1934. And so I didn't realize that Kenny's Shoes was a national chain. They were down here till 1959 in this space. And in 1959, they moved, and I forgot now where they moved to, but in 1972, they opened up a brand new store in Tarrytown Mall.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And so at one time, there were Kenny's Shoes all over the Southeast. I'm not sure how many stores in total, but they became a fairly large chain and were very successful.
What
but
a
it started right here in
legacy.
Rocky Mount.
Wow.
Yeah.
It started right here.
Right here. I see it's time for our first commercial break. So Lee, bring it back to me. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to show a few more pictures, talk a little bit more about Preservation Rocky Mount, how you can get involved, how you can help them in a very worthwhile cause. Adrienne Copland's my guest tonight. So glad to have you with us. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
There's a main nerve that leaves your back that goes into your hip and goes down your leg. It's called the sciatic nerve. A back injury can put pressure on that nerve, causing pain, numbness, tingling. Chiropractors can actually help that. At the Hammer Chiropractic Center on Sunset, we know exactly what to do. We have very good relationships with the doctors in Rocky Mount. We like to co-manage people's care. Some medications may help us do our jobs, and our jobs may help their medications work better.
Are you looking for the perfect space for your business in Rocky Mount? Discover the individual offices available on the 4th floor of the HealthView Capitol building in downtown Rocky Mount. These offices provide a professional environment with stunning views, ample natural light, and modern amenities in a secure environment. Join a community of thriving businesses and elevate your company to new heights. Rent includes utilities and Wi-Fi, and for an additional fee, you can have access to the building's gym. Schedule a tour today by calling Leanne Wester at 252-977-1616, extension 1012.
If you're just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcox. Adrienne Copland is my guest host tonight, and tickled to have her with us. She was on the show, it's been a few years ago, and we talked then a little bit about some of the efforts to save buildings and houses particularly. I think we talked a little bit then about some of the taxes that were, houses allowed to go into foreclosure, whatever, because taxes owed, that kind of stuff. You still doing any of that at all?
I do keep up with that, but I gotta say, since bringing that to light, there has been a big shift in the city, and they are really paying attention to that.
Great.
So there's been some good movement in that front, and I'm excited about it.
Well, awesome. That is awesome. During the break, we were talking a little bit about the store on Falls Road for the last several years anyway has been just that. It's been a warehouse / store all in one.
That's right.
Open.
We do Saturdays 10 to 2, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So with the new warehouse, obviously more room, but there's not going to be a storefront there in the new location because you've gone to online.
We've gone to an online business model, and we started doing that over the past couple years, especially with COVID. Everything changed. We
Absolutely.
had to change the way we did things. And what we found is if we just sell things online, we don't have normal hours, we reach a far greater audience. So we post things on our Facebook page, on Instagram, but like Facebook chats and architectural salvage groups, and we reach a community of people really looking for specific things for their home, and we reach a lot lot of people who didn't even know that we were around here locally and say, oh, hey, I would love to have a really fun mantle or window or door I want to replace with character to add to my house. So it's been extremely successful for us to do it that way.
That's great. I'm really happy that it's been successful. And so once you guys fully transition into the new building, I'm assuming you're going to close up the Falls Road location.
Yes.
How much inventory is in there now?
Oh,
Is it full?
it's a lot. We've been trying to have lots of sales and clear everything out, and we haven't been doing any salvages because we don't want to have to move things twice. But we still have probably 8 or 9 tubs. We might have 15 or 16 sinks. Probably 50 doors. I mean, and when we get some new things, we put them in the new space just to try to like space things out. Because again, we don't want to move things twice. If you want to volunteer, help us move a tub, come on. but yeah, it's still a very full warehouse.
Well, you know what? It's again what you guys are doing and what you've been able to do, is particularly in that area down there. You know, those houses all over the Mill Hill. We call it the Mill Hill when I was growing up. Some of them date back to the late 1800s, early 1900s.
They do.
And so, you know, a lot of that architecture and a lot of the building materials and the windows and doors and tubs and so forth haven't been made in many, many years.
Since the 20s or 30s, they haven't been made.
So if you were trying to restore one of those homes, having access to these kind of architectural materials has been a godsend, I'm sure.
It has, and that's the reason our store was started. It was supposed to be a community service project for specifically the mill houses, because if they needed to repair something, we could be a resource for them to come. And because if you're trying to match a piece of molding, you're not going to find it in Lowe's or big box stores. You're going to have it milled. But if we've got it, you can come get it for pennies on the dollar what you would spend.
And that's something you guys would take out of an old house.
We would take anything that we can get, that molding. You're looking for that window trim, you're looking for that odd sized door in these old houses. We've got it.
Great. Okay, so the online store itself, you've got a website.
We do, preservationrockymount.org.
And .org, not
.com, is .org.
Okay. All right, so I wanted to make sure we cover all the finer talking points of what it is you guys are trying to do and the types of projects you guys have undertaken. And there's been some really good ones. I showed the 1911 store a while ago, the storefront, dual storefront there. And that brought me back to another picture. We actually showed this picture on last week's show, believe it or not. And so I'm going to resurrect it and bring it up again. Number 4, if you would. Well, did we show 3 yet? I think we did we? Did we show 3? Was that the Kenny Shoe ad? Well, let's go to 3 then. Let me get myself back on track. There you go.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
This is from 1936. 2 years after they appeared in the Rocky Mount City Directory, Kenny Shoes had a advertisement in the Rocky Mount Telegram. And so from that point up through 1959, in fact, this was their address, 154 South of Main Street. And did a booming business down there. I'm pretty sure I wore shoes to school more than once came from Kenny Shoes. I sure did. Well, not at that location, but from the Terrytown Mall location for sure. Okay, now let's go to number 4. We shared this picture last week for a couple of reasons. We were looking at, there used to be a place down on Western Avenue called the Howard House Restaurant, or cafeteria actually. In later years it became known as the Townhouse Cafeteria. But that circle you see in yellow is the general area of downtown Rocky Mount, and on the left-hand side of that yellow circle that you see where the street cuts through, that's Western Avenue. And the Cress's building is there on the right-hand corner of the street. J.C. Penney's would have been on the left-hand side of the street. This was from 1956, this photograph was taken right here. And so Lee, if you zoom in on this yellow circle for our viewers, that demi-lune window is highly visible in 1956. And of course, at that time, that would have been the Kenny Shoe Store in 1956. And so
that's neat. You see the facade to the building to the right is very, very different.
Right.
Because that demi-lune window is removed, and you see what we've lost in the character just by putting something back that was simpler and easier and cheaper.
Exactly.
Well, what have we lost there?
There you go. And that's the thing, a lot of these storefronts downtown Rocky Mount, the facades have been changed multiple times over the years, and they've lost their original character. They've lost that, originality, if you will. And so, but yeah, there was 2 stores, as you said, that were identical originally, And so, but those two that are side by side are the two that you guys undertook as a project.
That's right.
And you had to redo the roof on one of them?
Yes, we had to redo the roof, and now I think it's just the one building, but it had two entrances.
Okay,
and
I got you.
and two addresses. But yes, we had to put a whole new roof on it, stabilize the interior, redo the facade, so that someone could come in, and we make it a little bit more appealing, because honestly, those are the scary things people say, and we know it right now. Putting a new roof on is scary. It's a big expense, so we went and did that for the new buyer to come in.
And you guys didn't buy this building, as I understand. Is that correct, or did you?
We did. It was
You
a
did buy it.
joint purchase with Downtown Renaissance.
Okay. And so once you put a new roof on it and redid the front facade on it, that was done around, I think, 2002, 2003?
2002, 3, 4, over those years, yes.
There was a really nice article that appeared in 2003 in the Rocky Mount Telegram. Lead number 5 for our viewers, if you would, put that up on the screen. There was actually 2 or 3 different feature stories. And I know it's hard to see with this newspaper clipping right here because it's kind of grainy anyway. But this actually talks about the efforts of the Preservation Rocky Mount group and what they're doing. It shows some of the demolition and so forth going on. But this was just one of a couple of different articles that the Telegram did on the efforts to revitalize downtown Rocky Mount and redo things down there. Number 6 too, Lee, if you go ahead and show that too. And I actually knew when I saw this picture here, Elizabeth Scott. Do you know her? You know
Yes,
her?
yes.
Yeah, I knew Elizabeth too. I'm not where she was at now. Met her years ago she used to work for Rocky Mount United Way.
Yep.
That's
She's
where-
around. She's here.
Is she still
yeah.
here? Well, anyway.
Her husband was in the store just the other week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, and Jerry Jackson, that name rang a bell with me, but I couldn't figure out where I should know him from. Do you know him?
It's not ringing a bell.
Okay. Well, anyway, this was in 2003. But this was some of the effort going on, and it talks about the architectural prizes that were saved from the scrap pile. We mentioned earlier about things that would ordinarily have just been discarded and carried to the landfill or crushed up or whatever. And so, it's a beautiful mantel there over a fireplace and like some columns maybe.
Columns. We still have those.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, we do.
From 2003?
We still have them.
Oh, wow.
Well, we had them and we would rent them out for like weddings and things, But yeah, we've still got them.
So
They might be for sale if you want.
So you guys do that too then? Would you?
That's what we earlier on. That is what they did. You know?
Okay. So
We've had some things lent out for theater production sets.
Okay.
And some
Weddings, I would
inquiries
guess.
about that, weddings. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, again, it's great that rather than being destroyed or being tossed aside as trash, this stuff is getting a second life. It's getting to be reused and some worthwhile results, no doubt, that are coming about from what you guys are doing. So you were originally with it, and then did you get out of the organization and come back?
I did, yeah. It was,
Okay.
yeah, I kind of got busy and kind of took a different direction, and then,
Right.
COVID comes around, and all of a sudden I found myself back. They said, we need you back, and here I am.
Well, so you were in this organizational structure. You're the president.
I am the
everything?
president,
Well, could have been a better choice. I'm convinced of that. Couldn't have picked a better person to lead the operation there. Number 8, Lee. Let's just see. I can't remember now. This is actually, I think, a picture of from 2007. You mentioned earlier about how the facade of the building had been changed. Okay, that was actually, I forgot about this, and this was from the inside of that building during the work that was going on in 2002, 2003.
Right.
And you can see the demi-lune, I'm going to remember that name forever now, the demi-lune window there. Okay, so that was number 8, number 7. So now, Lee, let's go to number 8, because I want the viewers to see what this building looked like on the outside when all the work was taking place. And there you can see on the right-hand side, you see the demi-lune window is closed in, the other 2 little side windows are closed in.
And it's sad. It's sad looking.
It doesn't even look right, especially if you know what it used to look like. And those of us that are from here remember how it looked.
Yeah.
But yeah, so many times these buildings will just have the entire front of the building just wrapped in either sheet metal or some kind of corrugated metal or something,
Yeah.
just to cover up what was there because they didn't want to go through the expense or the effort to repair it or bring it back. So it's great that you guys went in and did that. And so this renovation process on this particular building here took a year or two, maybe?
I think it took about 3 or 4 years.
Oh, really?
I think it did.
Okay. Well, the results speak for themselves. Number 9, if you would, Lee, let's put that up for our viewers. And to show you what kind of results you can get from, there you go.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And, you know, there's so many buildings downtown Rocky Mount that could be revitalized and brought back for a second life, if you will. I understand Dr. Monique Brown now has this space.
That's right. She purchased the building in 2012, and she moved her medical practice in there, and is still operating there to this day. So it really adds an economic development, key to downtowns and to cities as anywhere or your neighborhoods, because it invites people who want that's something special in a building they're looking for that you can't get anymore. And she's got that now with this old historic revitalized building.
Several years ago, downtown Wilson went through a similar revitalization. They redid the sidewalks and did a great job in downtown Wilson. I'd love to see a citywide effort, and there's a lot going on downtown Rocky Mount as we speak. There's a lot of different developers working down there trying to bring things back. I'm not sure to what extent the city of Rocky Mount itself is involved in those efforts. They may be heavily involved. I'm just not sure. But there's a lot of stores. That one in between the old Cresses building there and Dr. Brown's office looks to be one that could certainly use some spiffing up, for lack of a better term.
It could use some help, yeah. You see some things that missing, like there's the cornice is gone, that top piece. It's like the exterior crown molding, if you want to call it that.
Exactly.
It's the cornice. And so when you lose little things like that makes a big impact. And so those are the things that we like to see put back and restored.
So now, how did you get involved in this? I mean, you obviously know these terms and know architecture. So is that a background that you studied?
Really on my own. It's
Really?
something I always loved, old buildings, and I didn't know why. I would look at a building and say, why is this one pretty and I love it, and this one is close but it's not, it's close but no cigar, as they say. And so I just started studying it on my own. And I wanted to learn more, and I just devoured it, anything I could do. And then when I moved here, I went to Edgecombe Community College's. They had a historic preservation trades program. And so I enrolled in that, and I learned so much more.
My next point was going to be the training that you guys have done and continue to do on occasion. So let's talk a little bit about that.
You talked about the window restoration class.
Exactly.
I learned how to do that at Edgecombe Community College.
Okay.
And then once I learned that, I wanted to learn more. And so I went down to an intensive week-long workshop down in Florida and learned how to build them myself, And so this is the type of training that we need, because if I didn't do that, it would make it so much harder for me to restore the houses I'm working on, because if you don't know how it's put together, you don't know how to fix it.
Right. And that's, you mentioned earlier before the show that we were talking about, you actually have 4 houses now.
I have 4.
On the same block.
On the same block, yeah.
That you're working on all 4 intermittently.
Intermittently, here and there, it's taking a lot longer than I thought, but that's how it goes.
Well, hey, it's work in progress.
It is a work in progress. Yeah,
you
one of
need
them's
to
almost done.
Yeah, well, great.
Well, actually, the second one, I moved into the first one, and so I live in that one, and so the next one is almost done. Hopefully, I hope 2 more will be done this year.
Well, I'm rooting for you. We sure are. There's so much to this type of work, obviously, not just the dismantling and the recovery of the architectural.
Right, because that's the back end. That's when we can't save it. So we would love to not have to be in the salvage business at all.
Exactly. How does, if the city of Rocky Mount, do you get word that they're about to tear a building down? How do you go about finding out which buildings you can get access to get in and perform this salvage operation?
Well, yeah. So we at one point we had an agreement with the community code superintendent, and he would kind of let us know when there's buildings are going to be torn down. But they advertise them in the paper. They have to put public notice out there. So I would scan those and say, hey, and I would look at the addresses and see if there's something that's historic and built maybe before 1950. And see if there's something that we can save, because the point is like, we don't care who gets it, but we're not going to sit back and let it be destroyed. Right. So if we have to be that last ditch effort to go get it and save whatever we can, we will.
So the first priority is to preserve it if possible.
Yes, is to preserve it, yes, and really educate people that these buildings can be saved and why they should be saved, why they're important to us and to our community. But when we can't, we're going to go and salvage what we can and let those little pieces live on in another home.
There you go. That's great. That's a great effort, and it's a great mission. I mean, that for any organization, particularly a 501c3, where you're operating at cost on a daily basis anyway.
Yes.
It's great that you've got that sort of mission that you can look back on and say, we saved that building,
That's right.
or kept it from the wrecking ball or whatever.
Especially when you ride down a road and like you were saying before the show, like the battle house is gone,
Oh, yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
how do you describe just to that, to me, who I missed it, I never
saw
it,
Right.
And
pictures don't do it justice.
They don't do it justice,
No.
right? And so that's something that's gone forever, That's a piece of your childhood that's gone like it never mattered.
Right.
And that's what we want to stop. That's
Yep,
that hurt
absolutely.
that everybody feels.
Well, I told you earlier too, I just had this nagging fear in the back of my mind that at some point somebody's going to say Mac Haven needs to go. And that would be such a travesty.
That would be
that home
such a
dates back to
tragedy.
1907, I think it is. It was built by J.D.
Hines.
Hines, thank you. I went
yeah.
blank for a minute there. And he was a very successful businessman in Rocky Mount, and that home was a testament to his success. It wasn't to show off. It was to say, this is what you can achieve if you work hard and put forth the effort. And for that home, like the battle home, for it to be demolished would just be an absolute shame.
It would be tragic what we would lose, what that
Absolutely.
whole neighborhood would lose. It would be this unrecognizable whole.
It would. Have you ever been in Mac Haven?
I have. It is gloriously beautiful.
I've been here
my
all my
goodness.
life, and I've never been in that home, and I've always wanted to, and I just, on a couple of occasions I had a chance to, and for one reason or another it didn't pan out. I couldn't go. Something came up, whatever.
It has been beautifully restored.
It's on my bucket list. I've got to get in there before they do something else with it terrible.
It is really, really fantastic. I have high hopes, but I'll tell you what, if it's ever threatened, I'm going to be right there on the front steps.
I'll be with you.
Yeah.
I'll be there too. It's time for our next commercial break. So Lee, let's go ahead and take that next commercial break. When we come back, we've got a couple more pictures to share with you and talk a little bit more about the efforts of the Preservation Rocky Mount and how important it is what they're doing and why your funds are so needed.
So needed.
So needed. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
There's a main nerve that leaves your back that goes into your hip and goes down your leg. It's called the sciatic nerve. A back injury can put pressure on that nerve, causing pain, numbness, tingling. Chiropractors can actually help that. At the Hammer Chiropractic Center on Sunset, we know exactly what to do. We have very good relationships with the doctors in Rocky Mount. We like to co-manage people's care. Some medications may help us do our jobs, and our jobs may help their medications work better.
Are you looking for the perfect space for your business in Rocky Mount? Discover the individual offices available on the 4th floor of the HealthView Capitol building in downtown Rocky Mount. These offices provide a professional environment with stunning views, ample natural light, and modern amenities in a secure environment. Join a community of thriving businesses and elevate your company to new heights. Rent includes utilities and Wi-Fi, and for an additional fee, you can have access to the building's gym. Schedule a tour today by calling Leanne Wester at 252-977-1616, extension 1012.
And we're back. During the break, Adrienne and I were talking about there's a bunch of houses around Rocky Mount, and less and less as time goes on. Some of them are falling down, some are being demolished. But houses that for one reason or another, have kind of been locked up in suspended animation. You couldn't do anything, couldn't buy them, couldn't sell them,
Right.
between legal fees and attorneys and so forth. So talk a little bit about what you guys were able to do. 837 Bill Street is the house we were just talking about. Tell our viewers how you're able to go in and get that house freed up so someone else could buy it if they wanted to.
Well, it's a house that we had noticed, and we just thought, oh, this house is so cute. And there's so many that we'll go around and, hey, can we see this house is in distress. We try to contact the owners, and maybe there's a way we can help. Maybe we can help them market it and get it sold. Well, this one house sort of, sparked something in us because we realized, it's been empty for over 10 years, and what had happened is the lady who lived in it died without a will, and she had no heirs. And so this house had been locked up in probate for over 10 years.
Wow.
And it was, the administrator tried to sell the house at first, but it hasn't sold, and there's not enough to clear the debts on the estate, and so it's just racking up debt. And no one can purchase this house these days because nobody even knew it was for sale. Nobody even knows it's available because, these administrators have to focus on other work. They can't just constantly keep going back to these old houses. So what we did is we said, hey, what do we need to do to get this house or try to give it a chance? And all it is identifying the ones that are locked up in probate, and we put a bid on them. We just submit a bid, and what happens is it has to go to public auction at the courthouse. Then those are advertised with a whole new crop of people who are looking for projects, looking for something that they want to fix up. And that's all it took. Now, even though we were outbid on the house and we didn't get it, that house now has a chance to be saved, because if we didn't do that, it was destined to crumble to the ground. And so that's a big win for us. And there's several out there. So if you guys are looking for historic houses and you see them empty, check old advertisements for estate administrators, in the newspapers. They'll be there, and you can say, okay, contact that attorney.
Okay. Now, I noticed in the email you sent me, you also mentioned what's referred to quite often as the old Summerlin home on South Church Street.
416 South Church Street, yep.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about that house, because we just, a couple of weeks ago on the show, talked about that house. There's a little bit of confusion about the Summerlin Funeral Home was in that area. The house that was a Summerlin Funeral Home has actually been torn down many years ago. So on the corner, there was actually a house on the very corner there. It was a boarding house. And then that house got torn down, and there was a business built there. When I was a child, it was Marx Brothers Tire, and then right beside that was the number 2 fire station. Right beside that was the Summerlin Funeral Home, and then right beside that is the home that we're talking about now, which is still standing.
It's still standing.
Yep. So who's got that house now? I understand someone has got it.
Right now, I think it's owned by Celeste Beatty, and she is with Harlem Brewing. Company, and I think it's another lady who own it together. But what we did years ago is get involved with it, is that we realized the Summerlin family was trying to sell it, and so we helped acquire that house, and for the purpose of putting restrictions on the deed. So they're historic preservation covenants, meaning that we would put an option on the house and we would find another buyer who would agree to preservation covenants to save the exterior, to restore it, and not just anybody who says, oh, I want to buy it and I'm going to tear it down. So it helps preserve that house, and it helps you select a buyer who is going to have the home's historic significance and character in their best interests.
So are they living in the home now, to your knowledge?
I think, yes, they are. The Beatties are now. It had passed through several hands, but those deed restrictions stay with the house.
Okay.
So they're still a part, the covenants are still part of the deed and on the property. So, but yes, I think Celeste is still living in the house, and she's restoring it as she lives in there.
That's great.
She showed me around one day. It's beautiful.
No
beautiful
kidding.
Inside.
Well, at one point, I don't know if you ever had an opportunity to meet Bob Chandler. You ever know Bob?
No.
Well, Bob was like myself, an old history nerd, and he had tried many, many years ago to go to Rocky Mount History Museum, and that didn't happen. Yeah. And then, I tried, and I still harp on that from time to time. We need one. We need one. We absolutely need a history museum in Rocky Mount. We need a brick and mortar history museum.
Yes, we do.
So anyway, but Bob mentioned to me, he said, let's get the old Summerlin home over there and make that into a museum.
Oh, that would have been beautiful.
It would have been neat. It just didn't work out at the time we were talking about it. And of course, sadly, Bob has since passed away. But there's a lot of houses like that. We got a call. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon. Who's that nice little lady you got up there?
This is Adrienne Copland.
It's who?
It's Adrienne Copland. Do you know Adrienne?
Okay. She's lighting up the TV show tonight.
Isn't she though?
Oh, thanks.
She sure is. She's lighting up that TV show tonight.
Have you got a question for Adrienne?
No, I just wanted to comment on your shirt. I like your shirt, man.
Well,
It's a nice looking shirt.
Thank you.
Look nice.
This is my salute to spring. If I just hurry up and get here, I'm ready to
Yeah,
go.
yeah. We're gonna have some springtime weather.
I'm looking forward to it. Sure am.
Yeah, it's time for it, ain't it?
Absolutely, yes, sir. It sure is. Well, look,
So I
thanks.
haven't called in a while. I just thought I'd call in and comment on your shirt, and that's a nice looking lady up there.
Well, thanks. We
thank
appreciate
you.
the call.
We do indeed. Thanks so much, and
Now,
thanks for watching.
You know my name, don't you?
Your name, your voice sounds all familiar. I'm sorry, I can't put a face with the name. Who am I talking with?
Yeah, Billy Ray,
Billy Ray. Okay, yes, sir. Been a while.
coming out of Tarboro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where you
yeah. I
been?
tune in once in a while, and I just run across it tonight and tuned in.
Okay. Well, we're so glad you did.
All right, we'll see you.
Yeah, look, you're gonna make a donation to the Preservation Rocky Mountain Society.
Donation? No.
Well, tell your neighbors too.
Okay.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
No, that was just comment on how good that girl looked, how good you look with your shirt.
That's worth $10 right there, I think.
Yeah. All right, we'll see y'all.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, again, this is, we've harped on it all during the show, but it's such a great cause, and what you guys are doing is so important. Not only, I've said over and over again during this show that I'm a firm believer that if we don't make an effort to preserve history and preserve our culture and our heritage and what we've got here, we're not, don't need to expect anybody else to do so.
Yeah.
No one else is going to care, and so
And it'll be gone. And
It'll be gone.
And several areas are gone. That's why we love this tobacco warehouse that we have, is
Right.
because there's sections of Rocky Mountain that used to be called Tobacco Town. Right there at Falls Road, in Gay Street, you had the actual auction houses all right there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're all gone. They're all gone.
Speaking of that, Lee, let's put up item number 8 for our viewers. The house, the warehouse she's referring to at
600 North Vine Street.
Vine Street, was built back in the 50s. We think it's somewhere around 1956, 57. There's the building. It's actually surrounded by Gold Street, Harris Street,
Yeah.
Vine Street, and Carter Street.
So that's across the street. It's like this empty lot to the left. That's where it is.
Oh, okay.
On the other side of that.
I snapshot the wrong angle here, but anyway, in 1951, there was a proposal put forward before the Rocky Mountain City Alderman, with forerunner to the City Council, and number 9, Lee, I think it is. Where are we at? Number 10, maybe. I'm sorry, I said 9. It's 10 is what I was trying to get to. Looking at my notes here. Have you got a 10 there? There you go. This was actually, it was not quite a full-page story, but this was actually from June of 1951. June 24th, the Rocky Mountain Telegram had this feature story about Fenner's planning to build 2 new storage warehouses.
Ah, so cool.
And, and it tells all about the dimensions and what the building's going to be used for, storage and so forth. I didn't find an actual construction date, but the people that you bought the building from, or that will donate the building to you guys, said it was sometime after Hurricane Hazel, we think.
Yeah.
Sometime, so after 1954, maybe 55 or 56. But Fenner's warehouse built this building. They had a couple more in town, in fact, had much
They did.
bigger. Oh, yes.
Yeah, they did,
Yes,
yeah.
and so these were storage warehouses. I'm not exactly sure what, tobacco most likely, obviously.
It was tobacco
in some-
storage. You
some
can still
form,
smell
yeah.
the tobacco in there.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. But anyway, the building, this is one of 2.
Yeah, there used to be 2 right there
Right.
on that plot, and one of them, it also had some roof damage, and there was a storm, I think, back in 2014, and that was just all that one could take, and so it's torn down. So we're trying to save this one before it falls down as well.
But yours needs a roof too.
It needs a roof too. It needs a roof.
And we're talking about a pretty substantial amount of money to replace the roof.
It is.
And it's just so important that this work goes on, folks. It really is. I can't stress enough how important it is, the work that they're doing. And, fixing this building is not only preserving this building, it's helping preserve other architectural components. And
It is. We get to keep
windows,
on the
doors.
salvaging and that kind of thing.
Right.
But it also, it brings light to what is needed in that neighborhood. That's a Happy Hill neighborhood.
Yep.
And you ride around there and it really feels forgotten. I think it's because it is. Because when we have these buildings that are falling down, it really looks like nobody cares. And so we're excited to come in and be a part of the revitalization of the Happy Hill neighborhood as well.
That's great. And who's to say that maybe in time there'll be some interest in developing some other property around there? And
I think so.
Yeah.
It's a great area. There's a park right there
Yep.
across from Gold Street. It's been there.
Right.
It's always been a park.
Yep.
Yeah, it can be a really, really cool neighborhood.
Absolutely. The whole concept of salvaging these old houses and old buildings and so forth has such a great reward and a payoff. As you mentioned, for the neighborhood around it, because if you can save a house from being torn down or becoming a blight on the neighborhood,
Yeah.
it helps the entire neighborhood. So
It does.
when you're saving these houses and saving these old buildings, everybody benefits from that. Everybody in that area.
Everybody does,
Yep.
because and it's even people who aren't in that neighborhood when they remember riding down that street and they have memories of what it looked like, and that's a piece of nostalgia that comes back for them.
Sure.
And when the houses are torn down, they can never be fully replaced the way they were. They can
That's
never really be
true.
put back, and so you're left with, it's sort of like a missing tooth in that streetscape.
Yeah, it is. It is. I said before the show, when I was little, I lived on Columbia Avenue, which is one block off of Falls Road. Both of my grandparents worked at Rocky Mountain Mills. My father worked there for a while. I had several aunts and uncles work there. I walked up and down the streets, Falls Road and Spring Street and Elm Street and so forth. So I have some really deep roots to that area of Rocky Mount. And I was really glad when the Capitol Broadcasting people came in and put the effort into revitalizing
Yes.
the mill and that area in there.
Fixing it up and
Yeah.
revitalizing it and really, and so it stays the way you remembered it and keeps
Exactly.
those wonderful memories alive.
Absolutely.
It creates like a profound sense of place for all of us that we're really proud of.
Yep. And it's work that's needs to be expanded all over Rocky Mount. There's blighted areas all
There
over.
are.
Some years back, 4 or 5 years ago now, and I forgot who was and made the comment, but I think it was at a Rocky Mountain City Council meeting that I was at, and someone stood up and said there were 15 impoverished communities in Rocky Mountain. And so, that's a sad commentary on our city, and I don't know how much has changed in the 4 or 5 years since I heard that comment. But the point is that in so many of these blighted communities, there are, as you said, houses that are crumbling, that have already been torn down in some cases,
Yeah.
and it does make a snaggletooth street. When you've
It
got
really
gaps in the
does.
neighborhood.
It really does.
If we can save them,
Because most of these impoverished neighborhoods are the older neighborhoods that are closer downtown. Those
Right.
are going to be the historic neighborhoods. And I like to think that, yes, let's turn this negative into a positive. And so what I've been able to do in my neighborhood is where I could have afforded to do one house if we were in some high, value area in Raleigh, but now I can do 4 or 5. So that's the thing, is that yes, they're impoverished, but it really opens a door for people who want to come in and make a difference, because economically they can.
Speaking of your houses, you've got 4 on the same street. You're living in one of them.
Yep.
The other ones are in various stages of
Various
construction
stages,
and
yep.
completion. But at some point, you most likely will be willing to sell.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because that way I can get my investment back out of it, and I
Right.
can keep moving out and keep
Expanding.
expanding, moving down the street around the block, and really make a huge impact. When I started, I said I can do one house here, one house across the street, one house across town, but that won't make the impact in fixing up the neighborhood as it will everything on one street, one block, going block
That's
by
great.
block, and it really, really has.
Yeah.
It's made a huge difference.
I told her before, I can remember growing up here when that area, at Howell Street we were talking about. I
Yes,
haven't mentioned this street,
South
but
Howell Street.
Yep. I can remember when there was a pretty good neighborhood there, and then it kind of went through a weak period, if you will, and neighborhood kind of went downhill, and then it came back up a bit, and it's kind of gone through waves. But you're saying now it's coming back in
It
part
really
of what
is.
you're doing.
It is. When you start paying attention and caring about the area, it looks like someone cares,
Right.
and it's respected by everyone else in the community. Then
It's kind of contagious, isn't it?
It really is, and then it's inspired a lot of people to come in. I've seen other houses get purchased and fixed up because
Right.
each investment protects the other one with
Yeah.
investors coming in. And
That's
I hear people say, "Oh, that's not such a good neighborhood," and I say, "Well, yeah, but you haven't been there in 20 years. Come on back by now, and you'll see what's happening. Good
There you
things."
go. Well, we're almost out of time. Adrienne, I couldn't thank you enough for coming in tonight and sharing this information with us. It's a wonderful effort that you guys got underway, and I'm so grateful and thankful for such an organization and what it is that you guys stand for, what you're trying to do. And folks, I'm serious. If you can spare a few bucks or make a donation or give some time, these folks could use it. It's a very worthwhile cause. What they're doing is so much needed in Rocky Mount, and it's so important to preserve what many of us would love to see happen in Rocky Mount, and that is these older buildings, older homes that are kind of teetering on the edge being saved. And so your donations will go a long way to making that happen. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for being here, Adrienne.
Thank you for having me. Y'all, preservationrockymountain.org.
There you go. There you go. Folks, have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another. We'll see you next week with more Wayback Wednesday. Good night.